Hello, this is Fear Files, and today we're diving into one of the most mysterious and tragic missing person cases in modern history. A case that hasn't stopped captivating the world for nearly 18 years. A case where every new fact brings more questions than answers. On May 3rd, 2007, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann disappeared from a hotel in the Portuguese resort town of Praia da Luz. Since then, this disappearance has spawned thousands of theories, dozens of versions, millions of pounds spent on investigation, and endless pain for the family. But 2024 and 2025 have brought new, shocking turns in this case. The main suspect has been released from prison. The trial of a woman who claimed to be Madeleine is happening right now, and the investigation continues despite everything. Stay with us, because today we'll tell you about the latest developments in the Madeleine McCann case. And I warn you, some of the facts will shock you. Let's go back to where it all began. May 3rd, 2007. The McCann family, parents Kate and Jerry and their 3 children, including 3-year-old Madeleine and 2-year-old twins, were vacationing at the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz, Algarve, Portugal. This was an ordinary family vacation. Kate and Jerry are both doctors, successful professionals from Leicester, England. They had earned this vacation after a difficult working year. They came with a group of friends, also with children. The atmosphere was relaxed, carefree. That fateful evening, the parents dined with friends at the Tapas restaurant, which was just 55 meters from the apartment. They could see their room's balcony from the restaurant. The children were sleeping in the ground floor room, Madeleine in her bed, the twins in their cribs. The parents periodically checked on them, going into the room every half hour. It seemed safe. The resort was a quiet, peaceful place. At 9 p.m., Jerry looked into the room. Everything was fine. Madeleine was asleep, covered with a pink blanket with her favorite stuffed toy. Half an hour later, one of the family's friends also checked. Everything was good. But at 10 p.m., when Kate returned to the room, she discovered that the bedroom door was open wider than she had left it. She went in. Madeleine's bed was empty. The window was open. The curtains were fluttering in the wind. The girl was gone. Kate screamed. Her cry, "They've taken her," echoed throughout the resort. Panic began. Jerry and friends rushed to search. Hotel staff joined the search. Resort guests came out with flashlights to search the grounds, nearby streets, the beach. Someone checked dumpsters. Someone looked in parked cars. But Madeleine had seemingly vanished into thin air. There was no trace, no sound, no clue. Portuguese police arrived on the scene around 11 p.m. But from the very beginning, the investigation went wrong. The alleged crime scene was not properly secured. Dozens of people had already walked through the apartment. Evidence was trampled, smeared, destroyed. Police didn't call in sniffer dogs immediately. They appeared only several hours later, when the trail had gone cold. By morning, the news had spread around the world. The media pounced on the story like sharks on blood. This was everything needed for the perfect media storm. A beautiful blonde girl, wealthy parents, an exotic location, complete mystery. Madeleine's photograph, with her bright blue eyes and distinctive mark in her right eye, a rare iris defect in the shape of a line, appeared on front pages of newspapers worldwide. Madeleine's parents did everything possible. They gave interviews, appeared on television, pleaded for help. They met with the Pope. Celebrities, including footballer David Beckham and author J.K. Rowling, expressed support and donated money for the search. But instead of universal support, the parents began receiving accusations. Portuguese police, frustrated by the lack of progress, began to suspect the parents themselves. Several strange theories were put forward. One was that Madeleine had died as a result of an accident in the apartment, and the parents had hidden the body. Another theory suggested that the parents had sold their daughter, or something even more sinister. In September 2007, 4 months after the disappearance, Kate and Jerry were officially declared arguidos, suspects under Portuguese law. This was a nightmare. A family experiencing the worst thing that can happen to parents was now being accused of their own child's death. The British press inflated this into a huge scandal. Tabloids published accusatory headlines, built conspiracy theories, analyzed every word and gesture of the parents. Kate and Jerry sued several newspapers for libel and ultimately won cases, receiving apologies and compensation. But the damage to their reputation was done. In July 2008, the Portuguese prosecutor's office removed suspect status from the parents and closed the case due to lack of evidence. The investigation had reached a dead end. But the McCann family didn't give up. They created the Find Madeleine Fund to finance private detectives and continue the search. Kate wrote a book, Madeleine, with all proceeds going to the fund. They organized campaigns, made appeals, worked with international organizations for missing children. Years passed. There were hundreds of alleged sightings of Madeleine around the world. In Morocco, New Zealand, Brazil, India. None were confirmed. Dozens of suspects appeared and disappeared. Some confessed to the abduction, but their testimonies didn't hold up to scrutiny. The case was going cold, but not forgotten. And then in 2011, an important turn occurred. After appeals from the parents and enormous public pressure, the British government decided to open its own investigation. Prime Minister David Cameron instructed Scotland Yard to conduct a full review of all case materials. Thus, Operation Grange was born, one of the most expensive and longest operations to find a missing person in British police history. Operation Grange started from scratch. A team of 29 detectives reviewed all 40,000 pages of documents, studied thousands of leads, re-interviewed hundreds of witnesses. They created new versions of the events of that night. The senior investigating officer announced that they were treating the disappearance as a criminal act by a stranger, most likely a planned abduction or burglary gone wrong. In 2013, police released new e-fit images of men they wanted to find for questioning. Among them was a portrait of a person seen carrying a child toward the beach on the night of Madeleine's disappearance. This information caused a new wave of interest. Portuguese police, who had closed the case in 2008, reopened the investigation. But years passed, and there was no breakthrough. By 2015, the Operation Grange team was reduced from 29 to 4 people. Many began to lose hope. Critics asked, why are millions of pounds being spent on one case when hundreds of other children go missing without such attention? And then in June 2020, what everyone had been waiting for happened, a real sensation. German prosecutors held a press conference and announced they have a prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. His name is Christian Brückner, a 43-year-old German citizen with a long and horrifying criminal history. Who is Christian Brückner? This is a man whose name is now inextricably linked with one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in the world. He was born in Germany, but spent most of his adult life in Portugal, especially in the Algarve region, the very region where Madeleine disappeared. Brückner lived in Praia de Luz and surrounding areas from 1995 to 2007. He scraped by with odd jobs, working in bars, construction sites, hotels. Some say he worked at the Ocean Club resort pool, though this is not officially confirmed. But his real occupation was crime. Brückner had a long rap sheet: theft, robbery, drug dealing. He robbed hotels and apartments, specializing in tourist facilities. He knew how to break into rooms through windows, how to bypass simple locks. But even more frightening, he had a history of sexual crimes, including violence against children. In 2005, 2 years before Madeleine's disappearance, Brückner raped a 72-year-old American woman in her home in Praia de Luz, in that very same town. He broke into her home at night, tied her up, and brutally assaulted the elderly woman. He recorded it all on video. This video would later become one of the key pieces of evidence against him. But in 2005, he wasn't caught. He continued to live and work in the region. In 2007, at the time of Madeleine's disappearance, Brückner was living in an old Volkswagen T3 Westphalia van on the outskirts of Praia de Luz. He also owned an old cottage several kilometers from the resort. According to mobile operators' data, his phone was in close proximity to the McCann's apartment on the night of the disappearance. Moreover, his phone received an incoming call around 7:30 p.m. on May 3, 2007, about 2.5 hours before Madeleine disappeared. The call lasted about half an hour. But here's what's really chilling. The day after Madeleine's disappearance, on May 4, 2007, Brückner re-registered his car, a 1993 Jaguar XJR6, in someone else's name. Why? What was he trying to hide? Shortly after, he left Portugal and returned to Germany. Just a coincidence? German prosecutors don't think so. In 2017, Brückner was extradited from Italy to Germany for the rape of that American woman in 2005. DNA from the crime scene matched. Video recordings he himself had made were found. In 2019, he was tried and sentenced to 7 years in prison. And it was during this investigation that police began linking him to the Madeleine McCann case. One key witness is a former acquaintance of Brückner named Helga Busching. They knew each other in Portugal, engaged in petty crime together, stealing solar panels, diesel fuel, dealing drugs. Busching told German police that in 2008, a year after Madeleine's disappearance, they were sitting in a bar watching news about the McCann case. Brückner allegedly said something strange. The exact wording is unknown, but Busching claims that Brückner let slip that the girl wasn't screaming. How could he know that if he wasn't there? In September 2025, Busching gave his first television interview to British channel ITV. He said, "I'm 100% sure that Christian took Madeleine. I want Christian to go behind bars for this, for the Madeleine McCann case." Busching also suggested a theory about what happened that night. Christian knows the Ocean Club very well. He was working there at the Ocean Club, and I think Christian was thinking, okay, go in one apartment and take some stuff from this apartment. But this time, he didn't take luggage, he took her. This is a blood-chilling version of events, but it's consistent with Brückner's profile as both a burglar and sexual predator. There was a sharp increase in local burglaries in early 2007 in the Praia de Luz area. Their number quadrupled between January and May. In the McCann's apartment block, there were 2 break-ins in the 17 days before Madeleine's disappearance, with intruders entering through windows, just as Madeleine presumably disappeared. In June 2020, German prosecutor Hans Christian Wolters made an unprecedented statement on air. "We assume that the girl is dead. We believe we have the main suspect in this case. We believe he killed Madeleine McCann." This was shockingly frank. Usually prosecutors don't make such statements without filing charges. But Wolters said they have concrete evidence. though he didn't reveal exactly what. British police were more cautious. They said Brückner was one of the suspects, but not the only one, and that they were still treating the case as a missing person, not a murder. The difference in approaches created tension between German and British investigators. Wolters explained that the problem lies in German law. Under German laws, filing murder charges requires very strict evidence. Essentially, you need to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt, even before trial. Circumstantial evidence is not enough. They have data on Brückner's phone location. They have witness testimony. They have his criminal past, but they don't have direct evidence. No body, no DNA, no video, no confession. Madeleine's parents reacted to the news with cautious optimism. Kate and Jerry released a statement. "We will never give up hope of finding Madeleine alive, but whatever the truth may be, we need to know it. We want to be sure that the person or people responsible for her disappearance are brought to justice." But years passed, and charges were still not filed. Brückner continued serving his sentence for the rape of the American woman. In February 2024, he was tried in another case. 3 rape charges and 2 sexual assault charges allegedly committed in Portugal between 2000 and 2017. Prosecutors demanded 15 years in prison and preventive detention. The trial took place in Braunschweig, Germany. Brückner refused to testify. Under German law, he had that right. His lawyer Friedrich Fulcher argued that the evidence was weak, witnesses unreliable, and that his client was being persecuted only because of the connection to the McCann case. The defense claimed that if it weren't for the McCann case, the charges would never have been filed. On October 8, 2024, the court delivered its verdict, not guilty on all charges. The judge said that media prejudice had played a significant role in shaping public opinion and influencing witnesses. The evidence was insufficient. Brückner was acquitted, but this didn't mean freedom. He continued serving his 7-year sentence for the 2005 rape. The term was supposed to end in September 2025, and that moment arrived. On September 17, 2025, early in the morning, Christian Brückner was released. He was driven out of Seine prison near Hanover in northern Germany in a black Audi around 9 a.m. He was accompanied by lawyers and a police convoy. Dozens of journalists gathered at the prison gates, but Brückner gave no comment. The car drove away, and his whereabouts became unknown. But he's not completely free. Upon release, the strictest conditions were imposed on him. He must wear an electronic ankle tracker for the next 5 years. He surrendered his passport and cannot leave Germany. He's required to report his place of residence and get permission before moving. He must check in with a probation officer every month. Psychiatric experts stated that Brückner presents a high risk of reoffending because he hasn't undergone any therapy in prison. Wolters, the German prosecutor, said he has not undergone any therapy in prison, which means that from our point of view, we must assume that he will reoffend. Chilling words, right? According to media reports, Brückner initially moved to Kiel, then to Neumünster, but negative publicity forced him to leave for his own safety. By October 2025, he's living on social welfare payments of 1,000 euros per month, constantly moving between motels and homeless shelters throughout Germany. Local residents recognize him and express outrage. He's become an outcast. But here's what's really important. Just days before his release, British police sent an official international request to question Brückner. They wanted to ask him questions about his movements in Praia de Luz on the night of Madeleine's disappearance, about his connections to the Ocean Club resort, about his alibi. This was a last attempt to get information while he was still behind bars. Brückner refused. His lawyer reported that the client would not give any testimony without the presence of a lawyer, and that he has no obligation to answer questions. Technically, he's right. He's not obligated to testify against himself. But this refusal disappointed investigators. They missed their chance. British Police Commissioner Mark Rowley said, "Brückner remains a suspect in our investigation. We're exploring the possibility of filing charges under British law." The British justice system is less strict than the German one regarding circumstantial evidence. Under British law, charges can be filed if there's more than a 50% chance of successful prosecution. In Germany, the threshold is much higher. Wolters gave an interview in January 2025 in which he admitted, "It's unlikely that Brückner will face charges in the foreseeable future." This was a frank admission that, despite all the confidence of German authorities, they don't have enough evidence for trial. And here begins the strangest part of our story, the story of a woman who claimed she was Madeleine McCann. In February 2023, an account appeared on Instagram with a mysterious name. A young woman began posting with a shocking claim, "I think I might be Madeleine McCann." Her name was Julia Wandelt. She was 23 years old, from the city of Lublin in southwestern Poland. Julia posted photos of herself next to photos of Madeleine. She pointed out similarities: face shape, hair color, even the eye mark. She had a similar iris defect. She wrote long posts about how she doesn't remember her childhood before a certain age, that she has vague memories of living in another country, of being taken from home. Her story was this: she believed she was kidnapped as a child and brought to Poland, where she grew up with people she had always considered parents, but who, she now suspected, were not. She claimed she had scars in the same places as Madeleine. She said people always told her she didn't look like her family. Julia's account exploded on the internet. Within weeks, she had hundreds of thousands of followers. Media around the world picked up the story. People were divided into two camps. Some believed her, others considered her a fraud or mentally ill person seeking attention. But there were obvious problems with her story. The biggest, age. Julia was born approximately in 2001 to 2002. Madeleine was born on May 12, 2003. At the time of Madeleine's disappearance in May 2007, Julia was already alive and living in Poland. This was easy to verify through documents. The age didn't match. Julia was older than Madeleine by a year or more. A missing persons specialist contacted Julia and offered to help. A DNA test was organized. The results were unambiguous. Julia Wandelt has no genetic connection to the McCann family. She's Polish. Her biological parents are alive and were found. Her real parents confirmed she was their daughter, though family relationships were complicated. But Julia didn't stop. She claimed the DNA results were falsified, that there was a conspiracy, that someone was trying to hide the truth. She continued posting, seeking followers, giving interviews. And even more disturbingly, she began stalking the McCann family. Julia started calling Kate McCann again and again. She sent WhatsApp messages, voice recordings, letters. In April 2024, in one day, she called and messaged Kate more than 60 times. Kate didn't respond, but Julia didn't back down. In one message, Julia wrote to Kate, "I remember you. I remember you rubbing my head and saying, 'I love you,' and that you would find me." In a voicemail, she said, "Mom, it's me. Please don't give up. You have nothing to lose. If I'm her, then everyone will be happy, and if not, as you probably think, then I'll leave you alone." But Julia didn't leave them alone. She tried to contact Madeleine's younger sister, Amelie, via Instagram. she sent her edited photos, trying to show they looked alike, that they were sisters. She wrote, "I'm your sister. I'll never lie to you. There's so many things I remember." Julia also claimed she had memories from hypnotic sessions, flashbacks from childhood. She said she remembered spoon-feeding Madeleine's younger brother, Sean. She remembered playing Ring Around the Roses in the backyard of the McCann house. But all these memories could have been easily taken from public interviews and family photos that were widely available on the internet. What's even stranger, Julia didn't limit herself to claiming she was Madeleine. In January or February 2023, she contacted a Polish charity organization Missing Years Ago, which helps with missing persons cases. But initially, she didn't say she was Madeleine McCann. She claimed she might be Inga Garrick, a girl who went missing in Germany. When the charity pointed out this was impossible due to age difference and obvious differences, Julia changed her story. Now she claimed she might be Acacia Bishop, a missing baby from Utah, USA. When that didn't work either, she returned to the story that she was Madeleine McCann. This shows a pattern. Julia latched on to different missing children cases, trying to find one that would fit. This isn't the behavior of someone who actually has real memories of their identity. This is the behavior of someone searching for identity, attention, or something else. Julia tried to contact the hospital where Kate and Jerry McCann worked. She called the switchboard and for 20 minutes tried to convince staff that she was their daughter. The NHS Trust Communications manager reported this call to Operation Grange, the British investigation into the McCann case. In June 2023, Julia wrote an email directly to Jerry McCann. "I could be your daughter. It's possible I'm her." People are trying to cover up the story. She listed similarities, including scars in the same places. But there was no response. The refusal to respond didn't stop Julia. In May 2024, Julia appeared twice at the McCann family home in Rothley, Leicestershire, on May 2nd and December 7th. Imagine the horror of a family that had already experienced the loss of a child, public humiliation, accusations, and now a stranger appears at their door claiming to be their missing daughter. But Julia wasn't alone in her actions. Along with her, a 61-year-old woman named Karen Spragg from Cardiff, Wales, is charged. According to the prosecution, Spragg also called the McCann family, sent letters, and appeared at their home. Spragg's motives are less clear. It's unclear why she joined this harassment campaign. But the fact remains, two women, one young, the other elderly, jointly harassed a family experiencing an unimaginable tragedy. On February 19th, 2025, Julia Wandelt flew from Poland to Bristol Airport in the UK. She was planning to meet a friend in Cardiff. But instead of meeting a friend, police were waiting for her. Around 8 p.m., she was arrested on stalking charges. Karen Spragg was arrested along with her. Julia was held in custody without bail. On February 21st, she appeared before Leicester Magistrates Court. When asked her name, she responded, "Julia Wandelt," according to court documents, a strange formulation as if she didn't fully accept this name. She was charged with 4 counts of stalking causing serious alarm and distress. In March, her lawyer tried to secure bail release, but unsuccessfully. The court considered that she posed a risk of continued harassment. On April 22nd, 2025, Julia and Karen Spragg appeared before Leicester Crown Court for a preliminary hearing. Both pleaded not guilty, and so on October 6th, 2025, a full trial began. This was just a few weeks ago. The case is still ongoing in court at the time of recording this video. Prosecutor Michael Duck opened the case before a jury of 5 men and 7 women. He said, "Let me make absolute clarity from the very beginning. Julia Wandelt is not Madeleine McCann. There is unequivocal scientific evidence that Julia Wandelt has no familial link to the McCann family." At that moment, Julia burst into tears in the courtroom. She began crying so loudly that she had to go to the back of the dock. The session was suspended for 10 minutes. When Julia returned, her eyes were red. She looked devastated. Was this genuine grief or a theatrical performance? Hard to say. Duck continued. From June 2022 to February 2025, Julia Wandelt conducted a harassment campaign lasting 2.5 years. She tried to convince anyone willing to listen that she was Madeleine McCann. She pursued this myth despite all evidence to the contrary. He explained to the jury, there could never have been a legitimate belief by Julia Wandelt that she was Madeleine McCann. At the time of Madeleine McCann's disappearance, Julia Wandelt was not of the same age. She obtained numerous images of Madeleine McCann and the McCann family and sought to compare them to images of herself. Duck also noted the cruel irony of the case. Madeleine's disappearance attracted worldwide attention. One of many tragic consequences for her parents has been the constant inability to escape the glare of publicity that came with that tragedy. The attention they have received has not always been compassionate, sometimes far from it. The prosecutor read out some of the messages Julia sent to Kate McCann. In one she wrote, "Please don't give up on your daughter. I can remember so many things." In another, "Mommy, I know you're tired, but please don't forget about me." Voice messages were played. In one, Julia pleaded, "You have nothing to lose. If I'm her, then everybody should be okay. But if I'm not, as you probably think, then I will leave you alone." I'm not lying. I'm not crazy. But the prosecutor pointed out, Kate McCann's refusal to respond did not deter Julia Wandelt. She continued again and again, escalating her attempts at contact. Duck also told how Julia contacted Madeleine's younger sister via Instagram, sending her doctored images and saying, "You're my only hope." Imagine being in Amelie McCann's position, a young woman who grew up in the shadow of her sister's disappearance, whom she barely remembers, and now a stranger is harassing her, claiming to be that very sister. The court also learned about Karen Sprague. The prosecution alleges that Sprague acted in collusion with Julia, also calling the family, sending letters, and appearing at their home. The defense of both women claims they are not guilty. The trial continues, and a verdict is expected in the coming weeks. This case shows the dark side of the internet era and viral missing persons cases. When a case becomes so famous, it attracts not only sincere helpers, but also people with mental problems, fame seekers, those who want to become part of history at any cost. The McCann family has already suffered from false accusations, media harassment, and now from direct stalking by those who use their tragedy. Meanwhile, the investigation continues. Despite all the drama around Brückner and Julia Wandelt, Operation Grange is still active. Although the team has been reduced to skeletal staff, 3 police officers, and 1 part-time employee, they continue working on the case. In May 2024, the British government allocated another £192,000 for the investigation for the 2024 to 2025 financial year. By March 2024, total expenses reached £13.2 million sterling. In 2025, ministers approved an additional £108,000 to continue the work. These are huge sums for a missing person case, and they sparked discussions about fair resource allocation. But the most important event of 2025 happened in June. From June 3rd to 5th, German police, with support from Portuguese authorities, conducted a new large-scale search operation in the Praia de Luz area. This was the largest search operation in recent years. The search target was several abandoned buildings and plots of land in the countryside between the Ocean Club Resort and places where Christian Brückner is known to have lived. Police used ground-penetrating radar to scan the earth, search dogs trained to find human remains, and teams of forensic experts. Dozens of German agents combed the area, searching an abandoned cottage and surrounding vegetation. The operation was requested by German prosecutor Hans Christian Wolters with support from Germany's Federal Criminal Police Office and coordinated by the Deputy Director of Portugal's Policia Judiciaria Northern Directorate. This was an example of international cooperation at the highest level. Why these places? According to mobile phone geolocation data, Brückner's phone was near where Madeleine was last seen, within 5 minutes of the time of her disappearance. German investigators believe it's possible that Brückner may have killed Madeleine somewhere near the Arade Reservoir and dumped her body in the water. In 2023, police already searched the area around the Arade Reservoir and the city of Silves, approximately 50 kilometers from the disappearance site. Earlier, in 2008, a child sock was found in this area, though a connection to the McCann case was not established. In June 2025, the search focused on another section, but the results were disappointing. After 3 days of intensive searching, police reported no significant findings. No remains, no physical evidence, no breakthroughs. This was another dead end in a case full of dead ends. German authorities continue to treat the case as a murder investigation. British police still treat it as a missing person case. This difference in approach creates tension. The Germans say, "She's dead. We're looking for a body and evidence of murder." The British say, "We're not giving up hope of finding her alive, but we're following the evidence." Wolters said in an interview, "We haven't gathered enough direct evidence to file charges." That's because under German rules, circumstantial and inferential evidence isn't admissible in the same way as in other jurisdictions. British lawyer Mark Stevens explained the difference. In the UK and the US, you need to believe there's better than a 50% chance of a successful prosecution before charges are brought. Circumstantial evidence can be used. The law recognizes that you won't always have key evidence. This legal difference may be key to the future of the case. British authorities are exploring the possibility of filing charges against Brückner under British law, which would allow them to extradite him and try him in the UK. But this is a complex process requiring international cooperation and legal battles. The McCann family continues to live with this pain every day. On May 3rd, 2025, the 18th anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, Kate and Jerry wrote on the official website findmadeline.com. The years appear to be passing even more quickly, and whilst we have no significant news to share, our determination to leave no stone unturned is unwavering. We will do our utmost to achieve this. In December 2024, they also published a message. 2024, like the year before it, seems to have passed by so quickly, and whilst we still don't have any major news to report in the search for Madeleine, work continues behind the scenes. We have to believe that one day we will know. With our best wishes for a happy and healthy 2025, Kate, Jerry, and family. The Find Madeleine Fund, created by the parents, continues to receive donations from sympathizers around the world. The total value of the fund last year exceeded £1 million thanks to donations and royalties from Kate's book, Madeleine. This money is used to finance private detectives, legal expenses, and maintain public awareness. But not everyone supports continuing the investigation. Critics point to the enormous expenses and ask uncomfortable questions. In December 2024, British journalist Jane Monton wrote a provocative article titled, "Enough is Enough: Time to End the Madeleine McCann Investigation." She wrote, when in December 2017, £11 million of British taxpayers' money had been spent towards the search for missing Madeleine McCann, 86% of viewers of ITV1's Loose Women said the public purse should cease to fund the investigation. Now, in 2024, with that sum now well in excess of £14 million, aside from the millions in private money also, it is time to allocate resources to the search for missing people who actually can be found. Monton continued, "Shouldn't 2024, when many suffer because of the cost of living crisis and many others remain missing without financial assistance for the search for them, be the time that this pointless waste of funds finally ends?" Her arguments resonate with many. Thousands of children and adults go missing every year in the UK, and most don't receive a fraction of the attention or resources allocated to the McCann case. Why does one case receive such privilege? Is it a matter of class, race, media appeal, or simply because the case has become too famous to close? There's another criticism of the investigation. Some experts believe the focus on Christian Brückner is another dead end, another false hope. His acquittal in 2024 on other charges showed the weakness of the evidence base. Maybe German prosecutors were too hasty in declaring him the prime suspect. Maybe they succumbed to public and media pressure. Brückner's defender, Friedrich Fulscher, has repeatedly stated, if there were sufficient evidence, charges would have been filed long ago. My client has become a target only because he's a convenient scapegoat in the most high-profile case in the world. But supporters of continuing the investigation respond, every missing child deserves a search. The fact that the system is imperfect and not everyone gets equal resources doesn't mean we should stop looking for Madeleine. On the contrary, it means we should do more for all missing children. Kate McCann wrote in her book, "We cannot give up hope. Until we know for sure what happened to Madeleine, we will continue searching. This is our duty as parents. This is what any parent would do." So what happened that night on May 3rd, 2007? After 18 years of investigation, millions of pounds spent, thousands of leads and hundreds of theories, we still don't know for sure. Was it a random burglary gone wrong, as British investigators suggest? Did a thief break into the apartment, intending to steal things, but stumbled upon a sleeping child and in panic, or for more sinister reasons, took her? Was it a planned abduction? Did someone watch the family, know their schedule, know the children would be alone, and use the window of opportunity? Was it Christian Brückner, as German prosecutors claim? A man with a history of sexual crimes and theft who lived in the area, whose phone was there that night, who suddenly left the country the next day? Or is he just an unfortunate pedophile who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and became a convenient suspect? Or is there some other version we haven't even thought of? Human trafficking, accidental death, and cover-up, as Portuguese investigators suggested in 2007? Something else completely unexpected? The truth is we don't know, and the more time passes, the less likely it is that we'll ever know. Trails go cold. Witnesses forget or die. Evidence is lost. But the McCann family doesn't give up. Madeleine Beth McCann was born on May 12, 2003, in Leicester, England. If she were alive today, she would be 22 years old. She would be a young woman, perhaps studying at university, building her life, dreaming of the future. Instead, she remains forever a 3-year-old girl on millions of posters, websites, and news reports around the world. Her parents, Kate and Jerry, now in their 50s, have dedicated nearly 2/3 of their daughter's life to searching for answers. Their twins, Sean and Amelie, grew up in the shadow of their sister's disappearance, whom they barely remember. They're now 20 years old. They've chosen a private life, away from the cameras and attention that has haunted their family. The Madeleine McCann case has become more than just an investigation into a missing child. It has become a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of parental fears, failures of the justice system, the power and danger of the media. It has spawned documentaries, books, podcasts, endless conspiracy theories. Some see in it an example of how society comes together to help a family in distress. Others see an example of inequality in the system, when one white, affluent, photogenic case receives millions, while children from poor families, children of color, children from marginalized communities disappear without a trace and without attention. Both viewpoints are valid. Both contain truth. The McCann case is a mirror in which we see the best and worst in our society. Christian Brückner is somewhere in Germany now, living under strict supervision, wearing an electronic bracelet, moving between temporary residences. He continues to claim his innocence. He has never given an interview about the McCann case. He refuses to speak with police. His lawyer says he's mentally exhausted by years of accusations without trial. Critics say he's a manipulator and liar who uses the legal system to avoid justice. Julia Wandelt is sitting in a Leicester courtroom right now, listening to prosecutors lay out her actions before jury. She cried when she was told she's not Madeleine McCann. Were those the tears of a mentally ill person confronted with reality, or the tears of an actress whose performance failed? The verdict will be delivered in the coming weeks, and it could mean imprisonment for her and Karen Sprague. Operation Grange continues, albeit in reduced form. 3 police officers and 1 employee continue sifting through evidence, following leads, hoping for that one breakthrough that will change everything. The British government continues to allocate funding, though in smaller amounts. As long as there's even the slightest chance of finding answers, the investigation won't be closed. The McCann family lives with this pain every day. Every morning they wake up knowing their daughter is somewhere out there, or once was, and they don't know where. Every Madeleine's birthday they mark without her. Every Christmas, every anniversary, a reminder of what they've lost. Kate described in her book how she still buys birthday presents for Madeleine, still keeps her room as it was. This isn't denial, it's hope. Hope that one day the door will open and their daughter will come home. But reality is cruel. With each passing year, the chances of finding Madeleine alive diminish. German prosecutors have already stated they believe she's dead. The statistics are grim. If a child isn't found in the first 24 hours, chances of finding them alive drop sharply. It's been 18 years, but the human heart doesn't live by statistics. It lives by hope. And until there's definitive proof, a body, DNA, irrefutable evidence, the McCann family will continue to believe that a miracle is possible. What do we learn from this case? First, it shows the importance of immediate response when a child goes missing. The first hours are critical. Every minute counts. Portuguese police failed to properly secure the crime scene, didn't call in sniffer dogs on time, didn't organize a quick search of the area. These mistakes could have cost a life. Second, the case shows the danger of media hysteria. The press turned tragedy into entertainment, parents into suspects, an investigation into a circus. This didn't help find Madeleine. It only caused more pain and made investigators work more difficult. Third, it demonstrates the complexity of international cooperation in criminal cases. 3 countries, Portugal, the UK, and Germany, are working on this case, but each has its own laws, its own priorities, its own bureaucracy. This slows down the process and creates obstacles to justice. Fourth, the case raises questions about fairness and equality. Why does one case receive millions of pounds in funding while thousands of other missing children remain forgotten? This is an uncomfortable question, but it demands an answer. And finally, the Madeleine McCann case reminds us of the fragility of safety. The parents thought their children were safe in a resort town, in an apartment 55 meters from the restaurant. They checked on them every half hour. They did everything that seemed reasonable. But it wasn't enough. In a few minutes, the family's life was destroyed forever. This is a reminder for all parents. The world could be a dangerous place. We can't live in paranoia, but we must be vigilant. We must protect our children, never take for granted that they're safe. What's next in the Madeleine McCann case? In the near future, we'll learn the verdict in the Julia Wandelt and Karen Sprague case. If they're found guilty, it will be some consolation for the McCann family, justice for those who harassed them, even if not justice for Madeleine herself. Christian Brückner will remain under surveillance. German and British police will continue looking for ways to charge him, either in Germany or in the UK. But without new evidence, this is unlikely. There may be new searches if new leads emerge. Technology continues to evolve. New DNA analysis methods, more sophisticated facial recognition systems, better geolocation tools. Perhaps technology that didn't exist in 2007 will one day provide an answer. Maybe someone who knows something will finally speak up. Often in cold cases, a breakthrough happens years later when a witness who is afraid to speak finally decides to come forward. Maybe that will happen here. Or maybe the case will never be solved. Maybe it will remain one of the great unsolved mysteries, like the disappearance of Amelia Earhart or the identity of Jack the Ripper. Some mysteries remain mysteries forever. But one thing can be said for certain. The McCann family won't give up. Kate and Jerry made a vow to their daughter, and they intend to keep it. They will search for answers until the end of their days. And the world will watch, hope, and wait with them. The Madeleine McCann case is not just a crime story. It's a human story. A story of parental love that knows no bounds. A story of hope that refuses to die. A story of tragedy that has touched the hearts of millions of people around the world. It's a story about a little girl with bright blue eyes and blonde hair who disappeared one May evening, leaving behind only questions. Questions we're still seeking answers to 18 years later. Where are you, Madeleine? What happened to you? Somewhere out there is the truth. Somewhere out there are answers. And one day, maybe we'll find them. Until then, the family waits. The world waits. And hope, however dim its flame, continues to burn. This was Fear Files. We've told you about the latest developments in one of the most mysterious cases of modern times, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. From a release of prime suspect Christian Brückner in September 2025 to the trial of Julia Wandelt, who claimed to be Madeleine. From millions of pounds spent on investigation to new searches in the Portuguese countryside. We've told you the facts. We've presented different viewpoints. We've shown the complexity of this case. Now it's up to you. What do you think happened that night in 2007? If you have any information about the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, please contact Operation Grange at the Metropolitan Police or German Police. Even the smallest detail could make a difference. Subscribe to the Fear Files channel. Like, share this video. Stay with us for new mysterious stories, unsolved cases, and mysteries that make us ask questions. And remember, somewhere out there, the truth is waiting to be found. Every unsolved case is a chance for justice. Every missing child deserves to be searched for. Every family deserves answers. Thank you for being with us. See you in the next episode of Fear Files. And Madeleine, if you're somewhere out there and can hear us, the whole world is still looking for you. We haven't forgotten. We will never forget.